Imagine waking to a world that has not yet fully opened its eyes. The mountains stand silent beneath a final veil of winter. Snow still clings to their shoulders, but along the edges, something is shifting. The first warmth of returning light loosens ice from rock. Waterfalls that only weeks ago were locked in crystal stillness begin to stir. At first a whisper, then a silver cascade cutting through deep blue shadow. The air is sharp and impossibly clean. Each breath feels new. The fjords lie glassy and undisturbed, their surfaces reflecting peaks that plunge straight from sea to sky. There are no cruise ships idling in the distance, no summer caravans tracing the highways, only the slow rhythm of thaw and the distant echo of meltwater threading down granite walls carved by glaciers over millennia. This is Norway's quiet threshold season, the Coolcation months stretching from late February through May, when winter and spring overlap in a rare and fleeting balance. On clear nights, the Aurora borealis still ripples across the Arctic sky, green curtains of charged particles dancing above snow-covered valleys. Yet each passing day brings longer light. In northern cities like Tromsø, daylight grows rapidly, stretching the horizon by precious minutes at a time. Twilight lingers. The sun climbs higher. The country begins its slow return to color. In the fjord lands of western Norway, from Geirangerfjord to the vast inlets of Sognefjord, snow remains etched along high ridgelines, while lower slopes reveal moss, birch, and exposed rock in shifting layers. Waterfalls swell with meltwater, roaring louder with each warming afternoon. It is a season of transformation, visible, audible, tangible. This is not the Norway of peak summer postcards. It is something more intimate, a liminal landscape, half winter, half awakening, a place where silence still reigns and the grandeur feels personal. And if you arrive during this fleeting window, it can feel as us. Though the fjords, the mountains, and the returning light are performing a private overture, just for you. In the next few minutes, we are going to slip quietly into some of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth. Into the deep blue corridors of Sognefjord, the longest and deepest fjord in Norway, where cliffs rise more than 1,000 meters straight from still water carved by Ice Age glaciers. Into the narrow, cathedral-like walls of Geirangerfjord, a UNESCO-protected masterpiece where waterfalls tumble from melting snowfields and abandoned mountain farms cling impossibly to the rock. Into the orchards and snowy highlands of Hardangerfjord, where fruit trees bloom against white peaks and the season shifts in layers, winter above, spring below. And into the shadowed arms of Lysefjord, where sheer granite faces plunge into emerald depths and silence lingers long after the wind fades. But we won't rush through them. We will travel slowly, by ferry, by train, by quiet, mountain roads still edged with snow. We will stay in small guest houses run by families who live here year-round, who heat with hydropower and wood, who fish in winter and farm in summer, who understand the rhythm of this landscape long after the cruise ships depart. Because this season, from late February through May, is Norway's hidden window. The northern lights still shimmer across Arctic skies on clear nights. Snow still crowns the peaks, yet daylight stretches longer with each passing day, and meltwater swells the waterfalls into roaring silver ribbons. Crowds are gone. Prices soften. Trails feel personal. Conversations last longer. This is not just a cheaper time to visit, it is a deeper time to visit. A moment when the fjords belong not to spectacle, but to stillness. This is Coolcation Escapes in Norway's fjords, where winter loosens its grip, spring awakens gently, and travelers who arrive with patience are rewarded with solitude, authenticity, and landscapes in transformation. Let the mountains welcome you. Chapter 1. The Quiet Season. Most travelers imagine Norway in two extremes: the luminous exuberance of midsummer, when the midnight sun refuses to set, or the stark drama of deep winter, when darkness and snow define every horizon. But the true alchemy, the transformation that reveals the soul of these landscapes, happens in between. From late February through early May, the fjords enter a state of profound change, neither wholly winter nor fully spring, but something else entirely, a liminal season forged by thawing ice, tempering light, and deepening color. Snow still crowns the peaks, sculpting razor-white lines against slate-gray rock. Yet each morning, the sun climbs a little higher above the horizon, extending gentle beams into valleys that have slept in shadow for months. Ice surrenders its hold, meltwater gathers momentum. Waterfalls in motion. Waterfalls that only weeks ago hung frozen in silent suspension now begin to stir, first as hesitant drips, then as whispering threads of silver, and finally as roaring columns of water slicing down granite walls. These cliffs were carved over millennia by massive ice sheets during the last ice age, and now that same melting speaks through the land with sound and pace. The thaw is not a single moment. It is a procession, one waterfall after another, gathering strength as temperatures climb. The air, at once sharp and impossibly clean, carries both winter's clarity and spring's promise. Light lingers low and golden across the landscape for hours, filtered through crisp Nordic skies, rich with soft shadows and texture. For photographers, this is an endless palette. For contemplative travelers, it becomes sanctuary. And most remarkably of all, the crowds have not yet arrived. This is Norway's quiet season, intimate, spacious, and deeply atmospheric. Bergen, the portal to fjord awakening. We begin our journey in Bergen, the historic gateway to the fjords, a city born of sea breezes and rain that seem perpetual, even in early spring. In March, Bergen still wears traces of winter. Snow dusts the surrounding mountains, framing the iconic wooden houses of Bryggen, a UNESCO World Heritage Site founded in the 11th century and once a thriving Hanseatic trading hub linking Norway to continental Europe. Those colorful facades clinging to the harbor feel even richer against wind-shaped clouds and low light. Yet if you look closer, you see the first signs of renewal. In city parks and hillside gardens, crocuses and early primroses push through thawing soil, fragile bursts of purple and yellow under gray skies, gentle signals that spring is near. The Flåm Railway, a watercolor in motion. From Bergen, we embark on one of the most spectacular rail journeys on Earth, the Flåm Railway, Flåmsbana. This engineering marvel climbs over 866 meters, 2,840 feet, in just 20 kilometers, 12.4 miles, making it one of the steepest standard gauge railway lines in the world, with gradients up to 5.5%. Its track was completed only after decades of painstaking labor, carving more than 20 tunnels through rock that Bulgarian and Norwegian workers once bored by hand. The train snakes around hairpin curves, past cascades that seem to fall directly toward you, and along sheer drop-offs that frame distant peaks in morning light. In spring, the journey feels almost painterly. Snow blankets the upper ridges like dabs of pure white pigment. Lower slopes begin revealing moss, birch, and the first hesitant green of new leaves. Waterfalls cascade beside the tracks, swollen with thaw, their mist catching the soft Arctic sun and throwing prisms of reflection against dark stone. It is like traveling through a watercolor in motion, winter fading into spring in unlikely harmony, brushstroke by brushstroke. Why the in-between season matters. And as the train descends toward the fjord village of Flåm, where the waters of Aurlandsfjord meet mist and mountain, you begin to understand why this in-between season holds a magic that neither summer nor winter alone can offer. The landscape here is not static. It is awakening, Ice loosens, water sings, moss pulses with green. Birds return from winter migration to fill empty canyons with song. Light grows not just in duration, but in nuance, turning granite cliffs from cold gray to shades of rose, amber, and slate at dawn and dusk. This is what Norway reveals when you arrive at its quiet threshold, before the world returns in full force, when the fjords belong to silence, to slow breathing, and to travelers who move not to conquer, but to witness. Here, in the cradle of snow and sunrise, the fjords do not shout their beauty. They invite you into it. And so our journey begins, not in spectacle, but in presence. Chapter 2, Sognefjord, the King of Fjords. At 205 kilometers in length and plunging to depths exceeding 1,300 meters, Sognefjord reigns supreme among Norway's fjords, the longest and deepest glacial corridor on Earth carved by continental ice. Over successive ice ages, vast rivers of ice hundreds of meters thick pressed downward with unimaginable force, gouging valleys that would later flood as seas rose. The result is a marine canyon so profound that its deepest waters sit far below sea level, a record unmatched outside polar regions. In peak summer, its broad waters are traced by ferries and cruise ships like silver threads weaving through ancient stone. But in the Coolcation months, Sognefjord exhales a different rhythm. The water turns glass-like, still as obsidian at dawn. Silence expands, filling hollows between mountains and bleeding into your breath. At this time, the scale feels strikingly personal, almost private, as if the fjord itself has lowered its voice to share its secrets only with those who arrive in patience. Balestrand, a sanctuary of light. Our base for this chapter is Balestrand, a village that for centuries has been cherished by artists, poets, and composers. Long before Instagram feeds and epic travel guides, painters like Hans Gude and Johann Christian Dahl journeyed here in the 19th century, captivated by the fjord's reflective light, a luminous quality shaped by long shadows, snowmelt, and cold, clear air. Their work helped define the national romantic view of Norway, rugged, serene, and impossibly beautiful. Balestrand's soft Scandinavian houses, painted in muted reds, whites, and blues, line the shoreline like brushstrokes beneath a mountainous backdrop. Behind them, cliffs rise almost vertically, still streaked with snow even as patches of early green emerge at lower elevations. Here, we stay not in a hotel chain, but at a small, family-run farm guest house that has witnessed 5 generations of seasonal cycles and shifting geopolitical climates. This is a place where tradition meets intentional sustainability. The house is heated using ground-source thermal energy, tapping constant underground temperatures to warm interiors with minimal emissions. Inside sun-catching polytunnels, early spring vegetables, spinach, peas, radishes, sprout despite snow still clinging to ridges above, nurtured by lengthening daylight that now reaches deep into valleys each afternoon. It's a quiet reminder that Norway's fjords are not wilderness alone. They are lived-in landscapes, shaped by human adaptation, stewardship, and respect for seasonal rhythms. Meditative mornings on still water. Each morning, we carry our kayaks to the shoreline. In March and April, the fjord's surface is so still it perfectly mirrors the sky, a seamless union of steel blue water and soft morning haze. Paddling across Sognefjord at this time feels more like meditation than adventure. There is no wake of motor engines, no glare of sun-baked decks. Just you, your paddle, and the slow rise of a world in transition. The only sounds are the rhythmical dip of the paddle and the distant rush of meltwater tumbling from unseen heights tiny rivulets converging into streams, streams feeding waterfalls that only weeks ago were locked in ice. In these quiet months, newly freed water spills from cliffs hundreds of meters high, a dramatic reminder that even stone has a season. Above you, white-tailed sea eagles patrol thermal currents along sheer rock faces, their wide wings casting slow shadows over the water. These regal raptors are Scandinavia's answer to apex predation, symbols of fjord health and continuity. The Aurora over the fjord. On especially clear nights, particularly in late March, the Aurora borealis still graces the skies far south of the Arctic Circle. Sognefjord may lie well below the Arctic doorstep, but strong geomagnetic activity combined with dark, cloudless conditions can produce breathtaking auroral displays. Imagine standing at the fjord's edge as darkness deepens, fjord black and still beneath your feet. Above, faint ribbons of luminous green, violet, and gold ripple across the darkest sky, dancing across snow-bright peaks like ancient veils. This rare interplay of light, Aurora over fjord, is a memory that lodges in the heart long after the trip concludes. A palette of seasonal poetics. The visual palette in this quiet season is unique, unlike any other time of year. White snow, still resting on sky-high ridges. Steel blue water, unmoved and reflective. Emerald aurora, traced across deep night. Tender green buds emerging from frozen ground. In summer, of course, Sognefjord is magnificent. Lush valleys, verdant slopes, and boating traffic coursing through its wide arms. But in the quiet season, the fjord feels alive in transformation. You begin to see not only what it is, but how it becomes. Snow melting into water, winter giving way to life, shadow yielding to extended daylight. The intimacy of transformation. Winter and spring are not rivaling here. They are collaborators in craft. The fjord does not simply shift seasons, it unfolds them. And here on Sognefjord, you begin to understand why this shoulder season is not merely a compromise between winter and summer. It is Norway in its most intimate form. It is a time when landscapes speak not in crowds or crowdsourced panoramas, but in silence, movement, and attention. A season when stillness is not emptiness, but a deepening of connection. And as the mountains reflect on the glassy surface of the fjord, you realize that the fjord does not just welcome you, it reveals you to yourself. Chapter 3. Geirangerfjord, UNESCO. Drama in transition. A winding 2-hour drive, or better yet, a ferry slicing through cold blue water, brings us to Geirangerfjord, Norway's most photographed fjord and part of the UNESCO World Heritage List. In summer, cruise ships anchor here daily, but in the Coolcation window, late February through May, the fjord feels cinematic and raw. This is when snowmelt transforms gravity into spectacle. The legendary Seven Sisters waterfall, 7 separate streams cascading side by side, swells into full force. Across the fjord, the solitary Suter waterfall thunders down the opposing cliff, as if still trying to impress them. The meltwater roars so loudly you can feel the vibration through the kayak hull. The vertical scale here is difficult to comprehend. Sheer rock walls rise nearly straight up from the water, climbing more than 1,400 meters. Above them, corniced ridgelines still carry winter's weight, while below, patches of green begin to reclaim the valley floor. One of the greatest rewards of this shoulder season lies above the fjord. The road to Dalsnibba viewpoint, normally crowded with buses, is often still closed to vehicles, so we hike the final stretch on foot. Snow crunches beneath our boots, meltwater trickles across the path. There are no engines, no queues, only wind and distant waterfalls. At the summit, the panorama is staggering. The fjord lies 1,500 meters below, a deep blue incision cutting through granite. Waterfalls thread down every wall. And at our feet, improbably, the first alpine wildflowers push through thawing ground. This is transition made visible. We base ourselves in Geirangerfjord village at a small eco-lodge run by a young couple who traded corporate careers in Oslo for a slower rhythm of life. Their heating is powered by local hydropower. Much of their produce comes from terraced gardens that catch the first sun. Guest groups are small by design. Their kayaking philosophy is minimal impact. No loud motors, no wake, no disruption to nesting birds along the cliffs. The fjord has looked after us for generations, they say. Now, we look after it. In Coolcation season, that ethos feels tangible. Without cruise traffic, the water settles. Without busloads of day trippers, the village feels grounded. You can hear the waterfalls from your bedroom window at night. Geirangerfjord in high summer is spectacular. But in this in-between season, it is elemental, a landscape in motion, shedding winter and stepping cautiously into light. And as we leave, the sound that follows us is not engines or crowds. It is water. Endless, roaring, newly awakened water. Chapter 4. Hardangerfjord. Orchards and slow living south of the high drama of Geiranger, the landscape softens. The cliffs loosen their grip. The mountains pull back just enough to make room for orchards. Welcome to Hardangerfjord, Norway's orchard country. From late April into May, this fjord becomes Scandinavia's most delicate spectacle. Thousands of apple, pear, and cherry trees erupt into white and pale pink blossom. Snow still crowns the peaks above. Below, petals drift across emerald grass and into glacial blue water. The contrast is almost surreal. This region benefits from a rare microclimate. The deep fjord traps warmth, while surrounding mountains shield orchards from harsh winds. Since the 13th century, farmers here have cultivated fruit along these slopes. Today, Hardanger produces nearly 40% of Norway's apples and much of its celebrated cider. We settle in the village of Ulvik, a quiet curve of shoreline where orchards climb the hillsides in careful rows. Our home is a family-run apple farm with over 200 years of continuous cultivation. 8 generations have pruned these same trees. The techniques are slow and deliberate. Hand pruning in winter to control growth, no synthetic pesticides, natural composting, and sheep grazing beneath the branches to fertilize the soil and keep grass trimmed. It is regenerative agriculture by instinct rather than trend. In Coolcation season, life here moves at orchard pace. Mornings begin with frost still clinging to petals. You might help thin blossoms to ensure better fruit yield in autumn, a practice that increases both quality and tree health. The farmer explains how blossom timing has shifted slightly in recent years, a subtle signal of climate change. Warmer springs arrive earlier, and careful monitoring is now essential to protect crops from late frost. Afternoons bring cider tastings in a wooden barn scented with oak and apple skins. Hardanger's cider revival has gained international recognition in the last decade. Fermented slowly, often with wild yeast, these ciders are dry, complex, and mineral, more akin to fine wine than sweet supermarket versions. Dinner is communal. Roasted lamb from neighboring farms, freshly baked flatbread, apple chutney made from last autumn's harvest. Stories stretch long after the sun dips behind the ridge, and in May that means nearly 10 p.m. There is no rush here. Hardangerfjord in spring is not about adrenaline or spectacle. It is about cycles. Blossom to fruit, snow to melt water, winter to light. And for travelers, this is where Norway's Coolcation philosophy becomes clear. Slow down, stay longer, support families who live here year-round. Because when you sleep in an orchard instead of a chain hotel, when you taste cider made from trees older than your grandparents, when you help thin blossoms knowing you'll never see the fruit. You are no longer just visiting, you are participating. Hardangerfjord teaches that sustainability is not an abstract idea. It is daily practice. It is hands in soil. It is sheep under apple trees. It is patience measured in seasons. And as petals fall softly onto the fjord, you begin to understand something profound. Sometimes the most powerful travel experiences are not the loudest, they are the quietest. Chapter 5, The Northern Lights, Alternative. Many travelers assume Aurora season ends with deep winter. It doesn't. From late February through mid-April, the fjords and northern coast still sit well within the auroral oval. Nights are shorter, yes, but clearer, milder, and often more comfortable for extended viewing. The bonus? Longer blue hour, transitions that photographers dream about. Tromso, Arctic light, without Arctic extremes. We fly north to Tromso, 350 kilometers above the Arctic Circle, often called the gateway to the Arctic. Here, in early spring, temperatures are still sub-zero at night, but far less punishing than January's extremes. Snow remains on the mountains, reflecting aurora light and amplifying the spectacle. We spend a night in a glass-roofed cabin outside the city. From bed, you watch the sky shift from indigo to emerald. The aurora rarely explodes on command. It moves in waves, ribbons, curtains, quiet pulses. In March, astronomical twilight lingers longer, giving you layered compositions, glowing horizon, snow-capped peaks, and green light above. The experience feels less frantic than peak winter tours. Fewer buses, smaller groups, more silence. Lofoten, Aurora over the sea. Next, we travel to the Lofoten Islands, staying in a traditional rorbu, a red fisherman's cabin on stilts, above cold, clear water. Here, the aurora feels wilder. Unlike inland aurora chases, Lofoten combines Arctic peaks rising directly from the sea with open northern horizons. In Coolcation season, cod fishing boats still work the waters, drying racks stand full, and yet the summer crowds have not arrived. On a clear March night, the northern lights reflect in the fjord like liquid fire. The air smells of salt and wood smoke. The only sound is the slow movement of water against the dock. This is Aurora without spectacle tourism. No queues for viewpoints. No headlamp congestion. Just sky and sea. Why this season feels so special. Coolcation season is not simply about timing, it is about texture. You meet Norwegians who live here year-round, not just seasonal staff. Fishermen repairing nets before dawn. Orchard farmers preparing for blossom. Small lodge owners who know every weather pattern and ferry schedule by heart. Homes are heated largely by hydropower. Norway generates over 90% of its electricity from renewable sources. Food is seasonal by necessity. Winters demand resilience. Spring rewards patience. Staying in a farm guest house near Sognefjord, an eco-lodge in Geirangerfjord, or a rorbu in Lofoten is not just accommodation. It is immersion in a culture calibrated to nature's rhythms. Coolcation travel distributes economic impact beyond summer's compressed surge. It reduces strain on infrastructure. It supports businesses during transitional months when income matters most, and perhaps most importantly, it shifts your own pace. You notice meltwater beginning to run beneath ice. You notice the light changing day by day. You notice silence. The northern lights in spring are a reminder. Not everything extraordinary belongs to peak season. Sometimes the most intelligent travel decision is simply choosing the in-between. If Norway's fjords have shown us anything, it is this. Beauty is not confined to a single month on the calendar. Travel softly. Travel slowly. and let the mountains teach you how to wait for light. Chapter 6, the grand finale, a spring morning on the fjord. Our final morning begins before the sun. We push off quietly onto the still waters of Hardangerfjord in early May, Norway's orchard season at its peak. At 179 kilometers long, Hardangerfjord is the country's second longest fjord, carved by glaciers that retreated nearly 10,000 years ago, leaving behind steep granite walls and deep, nutrient-rich waters. The fjord is perfectly calm, not a ripple. Snow still crowns the highest summits, remnants of winter holding their ground, while below, thousands of apple, cherry, and plum trees burst into white and pale pink bloom. This region produces nearly 40% of Norway's fruit, and in spring it becomes Scandinavia's quiet answer to Japan's sakura season. A light mist rises from the water, formed by the meeting of cold fjord and warming air. As the first sunlight spills over the mountains, the pumpkin peaks ignite in gold. The blossoms glow softly. Reflections sharpen into mirror images so precise it becomes difficult to tell where mountain ends and water begins. There are no cruise ships, no tour buses idling on the shore, no lines for viewpoints, just the rhythm of your paddle dipping into 1,000-meter deep glacial water. In this moment, the Coolcation philosophy reveals itself fully. The shoulder season is not an off-season, it is a threshold. Winter's drama still lingers in the high country. Spring's renewal unfolds along the shoreline. Waterfalls roar with snowmelt at maximum volume. Migratory birds return. Farmers prepare for harvest. The land is in motion. And because fewer travelers choose this window, the experience feels personal, almost entrusted to you. You begin to understand something essential. The most powerful version of Norway is not always the one broadcast across social media in July. Sometimes it is this, when the fjords whisper instead of shout, when the light stretches longer each evening, when locals have time to talk, to share, to invite you into their rhythm. Coolcation in Norway's fjords is not merely about temperature. It is about timing. It is about aligning your journey with the land's own transition. You leave not with the sense of having seen Norway, but with the feeling of having listened to it. As the sun climbs higher and the mist dissolves into blue sky, the fjord fully wakes. Orchard workers begin their day. A distant boat engine hums to life. Snowmelt streams shimmer down dark rock faces. And you realize, the best version of a place is often the one revealed between extremes. When patience is rewarded, when presence matters, and when you allow the landscape to unfold at its own pace. Coolcation in the fjords isn't just a trip, it's a recalibration. Thank you for traveling through Norway's quiet season with me. From the mirror waters of Sognefjord to the thunder of Geirangerfjord, the orchards of Hardangerfjord, and the Arctic glow above Tromsø and the Lofoten Islands. If this Coolcation journey sparked something in you, the desire to travel more slowly, more intentionally, take a moment to support the channel. Hit like, subscribe for more thoughtful, off-season travel documentaries, and leave a comment below. Which fjord would you explore first? Your engagement helps these stories reach more travelers and supports the communities who share their landscapes with us. Until next time, may your journeys be cool in temperature, calm in pace, and deeply connected to the places you explore. Safe travels.